Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. I hope you've all had a fantastic Friday so far. Today, we're going to be diving into our daily cryptocurrency market update, and we've got a lot to go over in this video. We're going to be going over a lot of the sort of top headlines within the crypto space, but not just within the crypto space, for kind of markets and the economy generally. In yesterday's video, we made a long video yesterday where we spoke about commodity prices, rising inflation, and really tried to speculate on perhaps where the economy at large was going. It is not a typically flourishing environment when you have high inflation, you have tightening coming from your central banks, and you also have commodity prices on the rise. In fact, some of them at record highs. This was quite a interesting tweet I found. How many of you guys remember that film I Am Legend with Will Smith? That was a kind of apocalyptic movie. Gas is now officially more expensive than the movie I Am Legend imagined it would be during the apocalypse. Just found that very interesting. So yesterday we really speculated on where the economy was going and how crypto potentially fares within that. And we also looked a lot at some of the pressures that the cryptocurrency space is under, not just crypto space, but markets generally. We've seen massive downturns in a lot of your US stock indices, also your UK stocks. Some stocks are doing better than others, like Amazon, but Amazon really has done quite well off the back end of their share split. So if you have one Amazon stock, I think you're essentially going to get 20. This is going to massively devalue the Amazon stock, but for people who already hold it, could do quite well. And they're also introducing a repurchase, if you will. So there's lots going on. We have the official US inflation number, the CPI number, which came in at 7.9. We did speculate that this was going to be higher than the month of January. Of course, this figure is for February. Remember, a lot of your commodities have only really started to go through the roof in March, given everything that's happening on a geopolitical scale. This was a very interesting read from Goldman Sachs that are essentially trying to predict what will happen to Europe's economy if Putin shuts off the gas taps. You have countries like Germany that are heavily dependent. I can't remember, I think it's like 80%, 70, 80% on Russian fuel sources. So we are seeing the dollar actually see quite a bit of strength here. Remember, this is the dollar currency index. Now, this just doesn't represent the dollar. This represents the dollar against a basket of other currencies, the euro being one of them that is really suffering at the moment as a result of all this. So this is all very, very relevant in regards to crypto, because we've said the entire game for the cryptocurrency space has changed. We've gone from following cycles that are centered around the halvenings to now being involved in macro markets. And you guys need to really get to grips with this, understand it. Not only are you understanding crypto, but you're understanding markets generally and what kind of moves them. There is inside games being played. We did see, and I'll see if I can find it very quickly, buying big, nearly 30k BTC leaves Coinbase Pro in 3 transactions. So this suggests that you do have individuals that are still heavily accumulating here. And we did get the executive order, or certainly what was set out to be, what's set out to come for regulating crypto within this order from Biden's exec. Talking about regulating and tackling the digital asset space, talking about CBDCs, talking about how they can really position the US at the forefront of this digital revolution. And that's exactly what it is. We've heard comments from Jerome Powell. One reason I stayed bullish on the crypto space, even though I absolutely anticipate turmoil until everything is smoothed out, until we've got clarity on monetary policy, until geopolitical tensions have dipped. We actually saw some of your stocks actually rose on the back end of potential talks, which actually collapsed. And then they just, we are so tethered to everything, guys. It's important to remember that. But this order is going to be interesting. And is this going to speed up spot Bitcoin ETF approval? A spot Bitcoin ETF getting approved in the US would give it a huge green light. We have a futures ETF, which is not a spot ETF. It doesn't actually need to be, you're essentially betting on the price in the future. So you're shorting or longing it. It doesn't actually need to be backed by Bitcoin. Whereas a spot ETF would mean that these companies that wanted to offer an ETF, like the likes of BlackRock, the largest asset manager in the world, 10 trillion, I think, under management, Valkyrie, a number of other huge corporations are looking to offer ETFs. They'd actually have to own Bitcoin, just like Grayscale do with their trust. So it's very, very there's lots going on. There's good and bad here, guys, and it's really trying to sieve and swim through all that in the best way possible, in the calmest way possible. That is what I'm trying to achieve, and hopefully, give you guys a little bit of insight into everything in these videos. So there's some interesting things taking place for the crypto space. One thing that is certainly interesting to pay attention to is some of the structure that we're forming currently. Now, it is worth noting that this is almost opposite structure to what we had back in July. So you can see over in July, we had almost this falling wedge structure. Whereas at the moment, we essentially have the opposite taking place, almost a rising wedge, if you will, which doesn't have to, it doesn't have to be a rising wedge. It could be a sort of ascending triangle, in the same way that your descending triangles will typically break to the downside as you're kind of banging on the floor and tightening. Same thing could be happening today, guys, and we could see that continuation. That is a potential scenario that I'm looking out for. There's lots of different technical sort of analysis getting thrown around right now. Lots of it is getting invalidated daily, and really we're looking for, given the fact, just like your stocks rose some of your stocks rose on talks with the Ukraine and Russia, then they fell on the kind of falling apart of those talks. You've got to really pay attention to macro, and it's not trading markets, in my opinion. It's picking a side, it's looking okay and trying to think into the future. How does this all play out? What's crypto got going for it? Why are the reasons to be bullish on it? It's a small space. It's got a long way to go. We know that it's a technology that's yet to be adopted, and there's lots of value that gets swept up within that. If for example, if we go to Amazon and we extend the chart, this was Amazon in the dot-com boom. People who knew what they were looking at here would have invested accordingly, like we're trying to do with crypto now, and they'd have been the beneficiaries into the future, kind of being pioneers, if you will, or visionaries into this technology. The internet really changing the world, which is Amazon's story essentially, and it's very interesting. We've often compared what we're currently going through with 2010. So this kind of double top that we had in 2010 for Amazon, 2009 crisis, bank bailouts, so stimulus, QE has to take place, cooling off of that, also turmoil before you get that continuation in technology that's still very early on the kind of adoption cycle that it's going on. So of course we've got the this came in hard. You'd also, important me mentioning this, expected Bitcoin to have benefited, considering it is supposed to be an inflation hedge. It's supposed to be a combative against a failing fiat system, which is why Satoshi, talking about 2008, created it. You'd think that potentially Bitcoin would have done a little better off the back end of this, but there's just a lot going on. Markets typically are quite low volume right now. You don't have retail involvement. You don't really have FOMO kicking in, or anything even remotely like that, just given everything that's going on. And if you think about your typical household right now, I would imagine that quite a lot of them are going to be really worried about the rising gas prices and a number of other things. So we've got, of course, the executive order that we covered in yesterday's video. This is something I found very interesting. UK FCA, Financial Conduct Authorities, orders operations to shut down crypto ATMs. Any crypto ATMs in the UK are operating illegally, the financial watchdog said. On the forefront of this, people have absolutely gone nuts, and they've gone, oh, it's illegal to, have a Bitcoin ETF, and they're targeting Bitcoin. If I was the FCA, I would do the exact same thing. The majority of these Bitcoin ETFs have not registered, which means that the Financial Conduct Authority have no clue what's being pushed through these ATMs. So you could have somebody who's made money illicitly, essentially going and dumping his illicit money that he can't wash. One of the hardest things with being a criminal is, and if you listen to some of these crime podcasts, is actually getting dirty money to clean money. So if you, with these ATMs, people can essentially put money into Bitcoin essentially. So it's not really for the sakes of money laundering and a number of other things. You can see why they've done this. But what they are saying is that operations must be registered with the FCA to offer ATM services and comply with money laundering regulations, the FCA said in a statement Friday. So they are doing this really for the sake of anti-money laundering and really to stop people from putting money through these without them kind of knowing about it, and that's what these guys are really tasked to do. So it's not the end of the world. They're really just calling for people to be regulated to offer ATM services, and then they'll allow it. And remember, we've still not got a huge amount of regulatory clarity across the board on all of this. Dow Jones jumps more than 30 points on hope there will be progress in Russia-Ukraine ceasefire. It then dropped immediately after. This is going to be interesting. This ties into the video we were talking about yesterday that we just spoke about. Supply side risk arise from the war have stoked extreme volatility across global commodity markets, with oil, nickel, and wheat also surging alongside natural gas in recent weeks. Natural gas is once again front and center of Russia's Deputy Prime Minister Alexandra Novak warned that Moscow could halt its exports to Germany via the Nord Stream 1 pipeline. So this is really a potential. Germany would go into, they are extremely dependent, and I don't know how they would actually accommodate for this loss of gas, really, that they need to support. So you've got a lot going on all over the place, and we really need to try and kind of sift through that to figure out what is happening. So that's really all I have for you in this video, guys. I'm going to love and leave you on that note. If you've enjoyed this content, a like is always appreciated. So is a comment, and I'll catch you all in the next YouTube video. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gents.